Hi everyone. Today we're starting to learn about arc length and the area of a sector of the circle. But the first thing we need to do is to learn that each piece that this is cut up into can be considered a fraction or a portion of the circle. So we want to know what portion of the circle is that piece. Kind of like a piece of pie, except all these are cut into different size pieces. So first we're going to look at arc AB. So arc AB is right here, highlighted in yellow. And the measure of that arc, if you recall, is going to be the measure of the angle that is associated with that arc. So this arc's measure is 90 degrees. So to get the fraction of the circle, we need to remember that an entire circle is 360 degrees. So 90 over 360 gives us this fraction. Remember, it's part of the circle over the whole circle. That's how we create fractions. And then we reduce it. Now, for some of us, it's easier to reduce a 90 over 360, but if you need a little help, you can use the Desmos scientific calculator. And if you type in 90 divided by 360, it gives you the decimal, but if you'll notice right here next to it, that you can hit the fraction button and it will turn it into a fraction, a reduced fraction. So that's desmos.com/scientific, or there's the app for the Desmos Scientific Calculator. Okay, and it works just the same way that this web site works. Okay, so 1/4, that reduces to 1/4. Okay, so take a moment to try the other three, and then we'll go over the answers. Hopefully you had a moment to pause that and look at the answer choices. Now see if you got them correct. So BC was 45 degrees, and out of 360, it reduced to 1/8. So this portion of the circle is 1/8 of the entire circle. Okay, 60 degrees ends up being 1/6 of the entire circle. And you'll notice that sometimes you might even get measures that don't reduce, like 49. Oops, sorry, my mistake. I put 45 in that last one. Let me correct that. It should be 49. 49 out of 360 does not reduce, so it's going to stay 49 out of 360. Alrighty, so one moment, having a little trouble syncing. Okay, so how are we going to use these fractions? What do we need these fractions of the circle for? They're to find the arc length, if I wanted to find the length of an arc, or the area of one of these sectors of the circle. So we're going to start out with arc length. So what is arc length? It's the distance along an arc measured in linear units. So I'm not referring to the measure, like this one being 90 degrees. I want how long is it, in inches or feet or yards, how long is that arc? So the entire circle's length, that's called the circumference. So this probably was a formula you learned when you were in middle school, and the formula for circumference is 2 pi r. So keeping in mind that when you're looking at these circles, this is only a fraction of the entire circumference. So the formula to find arc length is whatever that fraction is, we're going to use the symbol theta for whatever measure your angle is, over 360, times the entire circumference, 2 pi r. So let's look at an example. I'm going to leave the formula at the top so we can see it. So this first one, note that it does say we're using the pi button. We're not using 3.14, and it says to round to the nearest thousandth. So we're not using, we're not leaving our answer in terms of pi. Okay, so please keep that in mind. So let's put our formula out. We're going to use this formula, theta over 360. Our measure is 45 degrees, so it's 45 over 360, times 2 pi r, and our radius is 5 centimeters. So you could type it in exactly like it is, or you could reduce it a little bit first. So for instance, we already did 45 over 360. But if you need to, of course, you can type it in here. 45 divided by 360. And remember, hit the fraction button. It reduces to 1/8. So we got 1/8 times, and 2 times 5 is 10, so 10 pi. And the last thing we would do here is I would multiply them together before getting the decimal answer. So if you put a 1 underneath this, multiply the tops. 1 times 10 pi is 10 pi. 1 times 8 is 8. And now let's type it in the calculator to get the decimal, because this one specifically asked for the decimal rounded to the nearest thousand. So we're going to type in 10 pi divided by 8. So I'm going to make a fraction by hitting, you can either hit the fraction button or you can hit the division button. So in the top, we're going to put 10. And then the pi button is going to be over here where it says function. And then here's the pi button. Now go back to the main screen and then arrow down here and put an 8. Hit enter, and there's our decimal. And we're going to round it to the thousandth, so 3 decimal places, 3.92, and then that 6 will round up to a 7, 3.927. And it's centimeters. It's not area, guys, so it's not squared. And now let's do it in terms of pi. Same formula. In this case, our arc is very large. It's 270 degrees. And remember, it's always out of 360 because the whole circle is 360, times our circumference, 2 pi r, and our radius in this case is 5 yards. So we're going to reduce 270 over 360. It reduces to 3/4 times 10 pi, because 2 times 5 is 10. And once again, we're leaving our answer in terms of pi this time, so we don't want decimals. We want to leave it as a fraction, so I'm going to put 1 underneath this. 3 times 10 is 30, so 30 pi on top. 4 times 1 is 4. And 30 over 4 does reduce to 15 pi over 2. And the unit is yards. If you're not sure, once again, if you don't know what 30 divided by 4 is when you reduce it, you can use the Desmos calculator to do that. So this is leaving it in terms of pi, and then this is actually typing it in to get the decimal answer. So what I'd like you to do is pause this video for a moment and try these 2 examples right here. We'll go over them in just a minute. So now is the time when you need to pause your video and try these on your own. Hey guys, so let's check your work, at least for example 3. You can see here that I plugged in 60 degrees for the angle, and the arc measure is also 60 degrees. It reduces to 1/6. And then in 2 pi r, the radius was 20 feet. 2 times 20 gave us 40 pi. Multiply the numerators and multiply the denominators to get 40 pi over 6. But this question doesn't want us to leave our answer in terms of pi, so we have to type it in our calculator, 40 pi divided by 6, and you will get 20.944 feet. Now, this next one was slightly different because notice that the arc I want is QRS here in bold. They gave us this angle, not this one. So a full circle is 360. So I did 360 minus 140 to get that this angle is 220. So the arc we're looking for is 220, not 140. Now let's complete this. So first I'm going to reduce this fraction, 220 over 360. 220 divided by 360, and it's 11/18. And then 2 times 30 is 60, so 60 pi. Now remember, put a 1 under it, multiply the tops and multiply the bottoms. So first we're going to do 11 times 60. We get 660 pi, and then 18 times 1 is 18. This one does not want it a decimal. It wants you to leave it in terms of pi, but you should reduce and see if it reduces or not. So I'm going to pull back up the calculator and do 660 divided by 18. Not putting the pi in there. We want to keep the pi in our answer. And hit enter and see if it does reduce. It does reduce to 110 thirds. So our answer would be 110 pi over 3. 110 thirds, and then just don't forget to include the pi because you're bringing it down. And the unit is inches. That's it for finding arc length. If you have any questions, make sure to come in for tutoring or leave a message in the chat.